We had an interesting conversation about the 90s the other day, too. Mary Catherine, man. Jim Moran joins us now, Democrat from Virginia, who held a an emergency town hall meeting last night. How did it go, Congressman?
Well, I mean, how does something go when you're the messenger delivering a message they don't want to hear, obviously. I think it went as well as it could have given the circumstances. No one is happy. I wish I had had a more pleasant message, but I had to let them know that there's a very real possibility we're going to shut down, and they need to prepare for that. And if they're going to be considered non-essential, they've got to start conserving their cash resources because it could last for more than a few days.
Okay, you tell us, where does it stand? I mean, you know, you're on the inside on the Democratic caucus. Or do you think that there is going to be a government shutdown, or are you hopeful that there could be a deal done today?
If I had to guess, I would guess there will be a shutdown. I think the chances are a little better than 50-50 that it will shut down, hopefully for only a few days, and try to resolve this by next week, because the schedule is that the Congress takes a 2-week district work period over the Easter break. So I think they just have to resolve it by next week. It's entirely possible that with a few days of shutdown, that the kind of adverse reaction to that might cause them to focus a little more on compromising. Right now, while there have been some compromises, the major issues really have not been compromised, and those are over the ideological issues with regard to women's health care and environmental regulations. The dollar numbers are not that far apart. The problem is what gets cut. Obviously, there are areas within the military that you could cut. The Republicans don't want to cut that. They would rather cut some of the education and social programs. And so this is more an ideological divide than a budget divide, but it's real nevertheless.
Congressman, you've got a lot of federal workers, a lot of military in your district. I happen to be a constituent as well. What do you say to the idea, and that I've heard from some people in the district, that, hey, it would have been awesome if you guys had passed a budget last year, especially when the stakes get this high?
Should have been passed last year. The Democrats had the White House, both houses of Congress. The deal was done. The House passed every appropriations bill. We thought the budget was done. If you recall, in December, the lame duck Congress, we had a deal to pass what was called an omnibus appropriations bill, all 12 bills put into one. And then at the 11th hour, for whatever reason, Mitch McConnell indicated that he wasn't going to have the Republicans support it. They needed 60 votes in the Senate, which is just, it's a requirement that just makes you want to pull your hair out, but they couldn't get 60 votes. It was a party line vote. They missed the 60 votes. It was basically, at that point, the end of the calendar year, and they went over to the next Congress. I suspect the strategy was that the Republicans thought that if we deny the bills being passed this year, then we will be able to reshape them next year, because it was clear at that point that there was a Republican Congress coming in, and they wanted to have a piece of the action. So that's what happened. It's terribly frustrating that those bills didn't get passed, and that we're in this morass right now. But obviously, whatever is agreed to at this point will become the foundation for the fiscal year 2012 appropriation bills, and so they become all the more important. If you give in on cutting on budget cuts, for example, or on some of these ideological issues, they will be taken for granted as part of the starting point for the next fiscal year's budget.
Congressman Major Garrett, National Journal,
yeah.
And everything you said about what happened in the lame duck is absolutely true. And we could revisit this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it could have also been done, sir, could it not, in the regular process before September? That is to say, the House and the Senate could have worked the appropriations process before the intervening election. And I think you're right. After the election, Republicans had a different set of calculations about how to engage on the issue of spending than they did before the election. I know Norm Dix has said on the House floor that it would have been better for Democrats and for the country itself had that normal appropriations process run regular order and regular course before the election. Do you agree?
I couldn't agree more. And, I have vented my frustration with Norm and with Steny Hoyer, and they wholly agree. it's one of those coulda, shoulda, woulda. If you could have known what was going to happen. Dave Obey, the chair at the time, was no longer in the Congress. He felt there were issues that were not compromisable. Basically, all of the other, he was the chair of the Labor HEW appropriations bill, but I think all of the members, the chairs and the ranking members, certainly on Interior, I can speak for that bill. I was the chair. I had an agreement from my ranking member. I thought that those bills could have been done. I think the leadership felt that there were still issues that couldn't be resolved to their satisfaction. We still have the 60-vote requirement in the Senate, and it's done now, and we've got to try to move forward. But,
all right,
yes, of course, it's an element of frustration. I wish we could have gotten it done, and we should have.
Congressman Moran, I know you introduced a bill that would make sure that if there is a government shutdown, those federal employees who are furloughed would get back pay. We've had a lot of federal employees actually call into the show and say, you know what, if I don't show up for work, I shouldn't get paid. You tell me why federal workers, if they're furloughed, if there is a government shutdown, why should they get paid?
It's because it's not through their fault. They're on hand. They have a responsibility to perform. In many cases, they're going to have to perform that responsibility in a shorter amount of time. When they do get back on the job, things will have piled up. They're going to have to work overtime, extra hard to meet the demands of their constituencies, which is basically the American public. So that's the argument I'm going to make. I mean, obviously, I have a vested interest in terms of representing an economy that is heavily dependent upon the federal government. It's going to be a big, deep hit to our economy if this lasts for more than a few days, if the folks don't get paid.
Okay.
2/3 of the federal workforce. And I think it's justifiable. They didn't walk off the job. They were closed out.
No, they didn't. But, I mean, it happens in the private sector all the time. And if there's no money, then there's no money. But let me ask you this final question, because you talked about an Easter break coming up. You're not saying that if there's a government shutdown, Congress is still going to take that break, are you?
I sure hope not. I mean, you're going to have to ask the leadership, and particularly in the House. It's the House that called it. There is some consideration for the religious holidays. The Jewish and Christian holidays fall during this time. But I would certainly hope, I would trust that if government is shut down, that we would not leave town. I don't think we're going to leave town this weekend if the government is shut down, although there's not much sense in being there talking to yourself on an empty House floor. So, we just don't know. Again, we're all going to, I hope, trying to avert a shutdown, get it done today, at least get us into next week where we can continue to try to prove that politics should be the art of compromise.
All right, Congressman Moran, good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on the show.